Hi and welcome to part 5 of this build of the StuG 4. Today we will continue with the gearbox, and as you can see I fitted these two parts for the drive, but that's all I've done off cam. So today we need to start building the gearbox and get that ready for painting, and once painted we can put it into the chassis, and then we're on to building the driver's seat and putting some munitions in place, and some final pieces for the interior before we move on to building the drive wheels and so on. But let's get into building. I'll try to zoom you guys in to see if we can get this slightly better. We have all the parts for the first step here, step 19. So we start off with the main parts for the transmission. Get some glue for this. I'll try to keep the parts in focus. As you can see, or hopefully can see, this part is fairly detailed. Just like everything else on this kit, the amount of details is almost mind-blowing. And it's a real challenge sometimes because the parts are so small and fiddly. But on the other hand, it's also fun to build a detailed kit. At least to me it's fun. I like all of these tiny details. Even though they sometimes are almost too small. There are quite a few small parts for the gearbox as well, as you will see. And I'll leave this glue to go off for a little bit, and then I'll try to sand the edge down because it seems like it's a bit uneven, and there's a step on the top here that I would like to get rid of. I doubt that anyone will see it once the model is built, but it's always nice to get rid of this. that's much better. It's much less noticeable. So that's that, and then we need part Q29 to go in here. There we go. And then we need this piece. Oops. And it goes in there. Like so. And then we have this giant, and it goes here. The wrong way, that's why it didn't fit. It's funny in a way that everything fits once you put it in the correct way. There we go. That's the first sub-assembly built. Then we need these two parts. We put some glue on the inside. Put some glue on top here. And this piece goes on like so. And then this needs to go onto this one. Finally, this one goes on the end here. crushed this one. That's better. We put some glue on this one to see if we can get it to be seated properly. And then we need to put a hose from here to here. A small cap to sit here. This piece goes here. Like that. And then finally this lever. I assume it's supposed to go here. So we will put this one in place like so. And then the final two pieces for the first step is the instrument panel. And this one goes on top of this. So we put some glue there and we hold this one like that. that is the first part of the gearbox completed. Next we have a few more pieces here. We have this one, this one, this one, and this one. And these go together like that. And then this one goes on here. So, and then I think we put this one on here. There we go. And then we need to add this hose. I think we hold off for now. We do this part. Which goes like that. This part that needs to go here. Like that, and then finally we can attach this hose to here. Like that, and finally it's time for the last two pieces. Should put the glue in before I put those on. This one goes on here. Like so. So that is basically the gearbox completed. And I will paint this up off cam, so I won't bore you with that. And then the next step is to put the gearbox into the chassis, and it should be. Oops. I think I need to wait for the glue to set properly so I can move this around without breaking parts off. But basically it goes like this. But this all will be painted up in FS 36270 Haze Grey, and maybe I will use some contrasting colors to pick a few details out here and there. But that's it for now, and I'll be back in a while. Thank you. Okay, I'm back, and I've discovered a couple of issues with the instructions that I thought I'd talk about. As you can see, I've taken a few pieces off of the gearbox, and what I noticed was that when I was dry fitting the gearbox, I was not unable to get it to fit, because this part here needs to go into this hole. So the first thing you should not do is glue this floor in place before adding the transmission or gearbox, because as it is now, this wall is rock solid and you can't move it, and this part you need the wall to be able to flex to get that end to fit in there. So don't glue that wall to the sides or glue this floor in before you put the transmission in. The second thing I noticed is that trying to fit this hole and this hole, these two lugs on the drive shaft needs to be in these. Also, this lug and this lug here should be in this hole and that hole. So the biggest problem is that here they actually tell you to cut the end of these two lugs off. And what that means is that if you put the gearbox in here now, there's nothing to hold the gearbox other than the two drive shafts. Next issue is trying to get those two lugs to sit in the gearbox. What you need to do is basically to angle the gearbox and get these two lugs lined up with the holes, like so, and then put the gearbox in place like that. What I think would be a better way of doing this is not to glue these two parts in place, as the instruction says. Here they tell you to glue this part here and glue the brake drum on the inside, and then you glue this part to the wall and put that brake drum on the part. What I think would be a better way of doing it is to hold this part in place and then glue the brake drum to that part, so this is all loose. Also glue this rail in place, but do not glue this rail in place, because that way you can, once you have built up your gearbox, you can, or I would glue this rail to the gearbox, or at least put it in the hole here, and then get that lug to line up with this hole, so the gearbox is attached to that one, and then you glue this rail to the floor. Then, since these two brake drums are not glued together, you can pull them out and then push them back in to get the drive shafts to enter the gearbox properly, and then you glue these together. I think that would be the best way of doing this, because following the instructions it will be a pain in the rear to get the gearbox mounted correctly, and since I cut the two small lugs off here, I will have no way of fixing this part of the gearbox to the chassis, so it will most likely be elevated in the front. I will see if I somehow can force it in there and then glue it to the rails, but I think the best way of doing it is to leave the lugs on here, put the gearbox on the one lug here and glue it in place, glue this one onto the gearbox before you do that, and then glue this one to the floor. Also leave this part out until you have put the gearbox in place, because you need to be able to access here to glue that rail to the floor. So that's a short update on what I discovered while trying to dry fit this one. When I'm back next time, I will have painted the gearbox, and we will go ahead and assemble the gearbox with the chassis. I hope you have a great week and enjoy your modeling, and I hope to see you back for the next one. Thank you very much. Okay, after a slightly longer delay than I intended to, I'm finally back, and as you can see I have placed the transmission into the hull, and as I've said in the rant I recorded about a week ago, this floor and this slight wall here, you should most definitely not put glue in place before you have the transmission in place. And also you should place these two PE parts before adding the floor and that wall, because you will have fit issues like crazy. So if we try this part of the PE wall, it goes down fairly nicely like this, and it fits great. But then when you come to fit this part, there is barely any room. And as you can see, it does not fit here. So what I had to do is basically, now I broke it. So this one goes here. And there's barely room for it between these two pieces. You can get it to go down in between here, but then you still have this part of the wall that needs to be placed between the engine and that part. So I would definitely advise you to put this piece in before you put the transmission in. So I will try to get this glued and painted off cam, and I will show it in the next video. But for now we leave that, and instead we go to A4, A5 and part of A6. So for A4 we need the bottom of the seat rests, we need the seat itself and the two armrest pieces. And we also need some glue. So we put this part to the side for now. And we start with these two pieces. And there doesn't seem to be any, there are a couple of location tabs. Trying to figure out how to hold this. Like so would be good. There we go. And then we have the handles they should be handed, at least they seem to be when I did some test fitting. And of course I took the wrong one. There we go, I finally got it in position. And this one slid into position immediately. So that's the driver's seat completed. And then we have this hose that goes from the transmission, and it's only 3 pieces. And it goes like together like that. And then we have the munitions box, which needs a handle and this metal or PE grate that goes on top of here. But I will not glue that in place for now because I want to paint these before I assemble them. I will just do the folds before I paint it, so the paint hopefully don't come off. There we go. And of course I bent the piece the wrong way, but it will have to work anyway. It will sit like this, so I guess it doesn't matter if it's bent forwards or backwards. And the munitions I will paint before I add them, but I don't know if I will paint it all or if I will be a bit lazy and only paint the top half, since you won't see the tip of the ammunition anyway. So that's it for now, guys. I will see you back in the next one, which hopefully will be out within not too long. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.